Okay, so let me say hello to the ones that are in chat. Some people like to go in the chat, other people don't. Let's have a look. Hi, Kelly. Hi, David. Oh, bacon and egg sandwich. I had a Greggs sausage roll for my breakfast this morning. Hi, Angel. Yeah. Hi, Daniel. Oh, hi, Julie. Oh, have you? Is it bad where you are? It's not been that bad here. It's not been that bad here. Hi, Maria. Julie, I hope you get your problems sorted out soon. I was thinking about you this morning. I was thinking, God, I don't even know what advice to offer about that. Okay. And I want to say thank you. Thank you to all of you subscribers. Thank you to everyone who likes my videos. Thank you especially to my members and to those of you who've bought me a Ko-fi, sent me a super chat or PayPal me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. If you're not subscribed yet, please think about subscribing. It's completely free. And leave that DNA on the like button. Okay, let's take the banner off now then. So we're going to start, first of all, by looking at this virus, this awful virus. And of course, it sent people into a spin. A lot of people don't believe the story or believe that it's true, but what can you say? That's what the forensic examiner has released. Poor Betsy. I can understand it because I just feel like Betsy was trying to look after Gene. His health was deteriorating. He was getting his Alzheimer's was getting worse, and being probably fiercely proud, fiercely private, she was trying to do it all herself. That's exactly what my dad tried to do with my mum. And do you know what? He had a heart attack. He just died of a heart attack because he couldn't cope with. He was trying to do it all on his own, and it's too much caring for someone with Alzheimer's or dementia, as my mum had. It is absolutely soul destroying. So you're talking about a partner. She'd been with him for 30 years. My mum and dad had been together for over 40 years. I think it might have even been 50 years. So seeing the person that you've loved and who's been part of your life for all that time deteriorate in front of your eyes, and they start doing very strange things, and the only reason I know exactly what was happening with my mum and dad's life is because I'd come to Spain by then, and I have my dad's letters. My dad would write me letters. I know I'm the only person in my family to have letters from him, because it's only because I was here. It's before social media, so you remember when people used to write letters, and I'm so glad I've got these letters, and telling me, what it was like trying to look after my mum. It's soul destroying for him. So that's what I think was happening with Betsy and Jean. She was trying to look after him. I still don't really understand why they didn't have carers, because we're talking about millionaires here. We're talking about people where money was no object. My dad didn't have any carers in for my mum because he could have had like social services, and we were always saying to him, look, don't be too proud to ask for help. He didn't even get carers allowance or anything. My dad was just that generation. He wouldn't ask. He didn't want anything given to him. He worked all his life. He was on unemployment benefit very briefly when he got made redundant. He hated every minute of it. He then, got another job, and it wasn't until he retired and he got his pension and everything. He felt he deserved his pension, but he didn't want to claim unemployment benefit and things, and carers allowance. So that's a generation some people just are fiercely proud and they will not ask for help. Other people, milk the system, don't they? And then my dad was not one of them. And of course, but with Betsy and Jean, money was no object. So it must be privacy. Maybe she just didn't want people in to see how Jean had deteriorated. We don't know, because I don't know if the police are going to be able to find anything, on her electronic devices, that maybe she wrote a journal or said how she felt or whatever. Or maybe, and it's very, very difficult. Because when she popped out that day, I mean, thing is, you can't leave people with Alzheimer's on their own, not for any length of time. I wonder if she put him in that mudroom, would she have gone off and just left him wandering around the house? Or, the trouble is, we don't know how bad his Alzheimer's was. I don't think we'll ever know the full circumstances, will we? But let's have a look at this virus. I'm going to put a little picture of it up here if I've got one somewhere. Yeah, certainly a virus I'd never heard of before. But of course, there are so many viruses that I've not heard of. I don't know every single virus, but it's quite funny. This is the virus itself. Viruses always look up in the top right-hand corner. They always look quite pretty, don't they? Because it's colourful but the reason, obviously, I think as well that I wouldn't have heard of it, 'cause it is quite common reading about it. It's more common to this area, sort of Arizona, and that area. It's a rodent. It's a virus that's transmitted by rodents, and especially apparently the deer mouse, whatever that is. So anyway, that's what we're going to have a look at. Okay, so just a quick thing, just to talk about what this virus is, because I think people are, I think most people probably would not have heard of it. It's very rare, apparently. So that's another reason, I suppose, that we wouldn't have heard of it. It's not a common virus. So, actor Gene Hackman died of heart disease around a week after his wife. So, this is what they're thinking now. That Gene died of heart disease. He probably hadn't eaten for a week. Though strangely, she did say, the forensic pathologist, that he was not showing signs of dehydration. So maybe he had access to water, but he just couldn't make himself something to eat. I mean, I just don't know. So, and of course, the dog, they still have not released the cause of death for the dog, which is a bit mysterious, but it may well be that the dog was crated because he'd been to the vet that day, apparently, or to the pet store the day that they think that Betsy sadly died. So it may be that she just hadn't taken it out of the crate yet, Anyway, again, we don't know. But we don't know the cause of death for the dog. It won't be this virus, because the dogs are not in danger from this virus. And also, this virus apparently cannot be transmitted from one person to another. Okay. So, HBS, commonly referred to as hantavirus disease, is a respiratory disease caused by hantaviruses, which are carried by several types of rodents. Now, I would say if you live in that area, look, it says here, it's a rare condition in the US, with most cases concentrated in the western states of New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah. So it's something to, bear in mind if you live in any of those areas. The New Mexico Department of Health says that hantaviruses are spread by the saliva, droppings, and urine of infected rodents, which in North America is most likely to be the eastern deer mouse, the Peromyscus maniculatus. Now, we saw their property. It's a huge property with a lot of land around it, etc. So there probably was a lot of mice. I've had a mouse in my house once. It wasn't a deer mouse. I don't know what mouse it was, but I'm not sure where it came from, to be honest. But anyway, it took me about 3 months to catch it. Because I didn't want to kill it, because I thought killing it was, I did try putting a trap down, but I just couldn't stand it. My nerves couldn't stand it. And anyway, to cut a long story short, I did eventually catch this mouse, take it out to the campo and let it go. And by the time I caught it, it was funny because it had been in the house for so long. Over Christmas, it had been in the house. It was so fat because it was living off, was getting up onto the side where the toaster is. And I think it was eating the, in the toaster, you've got like the crumbs from the toast. I think that's what it was eating. Anyway, I got it in the end. So got it, took it out, released it into the wild. God knows what happened to it, but I hope it got a little bit of a free life out there. I'm sure it was happier in my house. But, while I had that mouse, I was reading up on them. They're such intelligent creatures. They really are intelligent, and they can climb anything. They can get under doors. They can flatten their body and get under a door, because sometimes, you find evidence of them around. You do find their droppings in the weirdest places. And it's like, how the hell did it get there? And then sort of reading up about them and how they're like Spider-Man. It's like they can get anywhere. They can climb things. They put their legs sort of like that and climb up things. They're very clever creatures. And I'm not even in a rural area. So, I'd imagine if you were in a rural area like they were, there's loads and loads. I mean, it was a cute little thing. It was like just a field mouse, I suppose, but I say it was a right little ball of fat in the end. It had a great time living in my house for 3 months. The first time I saw it was in the first time that I realised that we had a mouse. And I felt, because my son, he was only little at the time, and he'd been saying, I can hear a funny noise in my bedroom. And I was just like, you know what kids are like, they have imaginations, don't they? And then it got cold, the weather turned cold, and up in the top of his wardrobe, he had this lovely blanket with a rocket on, that just used to come out. Someone had bought him for his birthday, like a velour blanket. And it was starting to get cold, so I was going to put it over his bed, over his duvet. And when I pulled it down, it was all chewed and eaten. This bloody mouse had wrecked this blanket. So that's where it started off, in my son's room. I have no idea how it got in there, or where it came from. I think it came from my neighbour's house, because he'd said that he'd had a neighbour had a mouse in his boot one day. When he went to put his boot on, a mouse jumped out. I think they probably shooed it out of their house, and it just popped in next door. Anyway, so it ruined this lovely blanket. It'd probably been eating that for a while. And then, a friend of mine was here one day, and she just said to me, oh my God. Oh, that's right. That was the other thing. I kept finding dog food. My dogs eat the dry dog food. It wasn't the dogs I've got now. It was my previous 2 little dogs. And one of them would always pick the food up and take it off somewhere and then eat it, for some reason. And I kept finding the dog food behind the sofa. And I was thinking, why is the dog... Like, she'd never done that before. She might take it over to the other side of the room and eat it. But I kept finding pellets of dog food behind the sofa. And I thought it was the dog that was doing it. But why is the dog taking but this must have been the mouse. So the mouse was probably living off the dog food as well. Oh, it was having a great time in my house. It would have been like... what buffet in my house. You got the toaster, the blanket, the dog food. He's having a great time, this mouse. Anyway, but, we didn't catch this horrible virus then. But it wasn't a deer mouse. It's what you would call a field mouse, I suppose. So this virus is often transmitted through the air when people sweep out sheds or clean closets where mice have been living, or by eating food contaminated with mouse droppings. It's not transmissible from person to person. Look, actually, this looks a little bit like that mouse that I had in my house, but mine was fatter. Now the problem is this virus can cause pulmonary syndrome in humans. So this is the danger of it. So symptoms, which vary between people, are thought to develop between 1 and 8 weeks after exposure, and the likelihood of death in the southwest of the US is about 38 to 50%. That's quite high, isn't it? That's really quite high. Early symptoms include fatigue, fever, and myalgia, muscle aches. Half of patients also experiencing malaise, headaches, dizziness, lightheadedness, chills, sweats, and abdominal problems, including nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Now, the thing is, all those things, if you're just feeling tired or you've got a headache or dizziness, your first thought would not be this virus, would it? It might be now because we know about it now. But, I'd never heard of it before. So if you started experiencing, you'd think you had the flu, or you might think you'd eaten something, or, eaten something dodgy or whatever. Your thoughts would not straight away go to this virus. So they're early symptoms. Then later symptoms include coughing, shortness of breath, and pneumonia. Now, we don't know if Betsy had been to the doctor. She'd been out and about that day. The day that they think she probably died, because 1 minute, it was known that she was out and about. On the 11th of February, rapid breathing and rapid heartbeat are also typical. And if it gets to this stage, the disease progresses rapidly, requiring hospital treatment and often mechanical ventilation to help with breathing. Now, you can imagine someone like Betsy, if she was caring for Jean, she's not going to want to go to hospital, is she? Because she'll be thinking, who's going to look after Jean? Now, again, though, your logical mind tells you at the end of the day, they had enough money to get in a full-time carer, didn't they? So it is a bit mysterious why they were. I know they were proud and they were trying to do it on their own, and I understand that, as that's exactly what my dad did. But the thing is, if you're starting to feel ill, for any of you out there that are caring for anyone, be it a child or be it an adult with problems, you have to you should really carry something on you as well. Because if you were out and about and you had an accident, got run over, and, at home you've got a vulnerable person, who needs, or even if you've got dogs in crate, a lot of people crate their dogs when they go out, for various reasons. And, I wouldn't judge them. My dogs go in crate. Well, 2 of them. They love their crates, especially when there's fireworks going off in the village and that. I think they feel safe in them. But of course, there's 2 of us here. So, but the thing is, if I was living on my own, I wouldn't put my dog in. They have to go in the crates because they don't get on with the other dog. My son's dog, but so I suppose if he wasn't here with his dogs, there'd be no need for them to go in a cage ever. But I think really you should carry something to say, because if you live alone and you're or even if you're living with somebody else, if you tend to go out together, the 2 of you, obviously myself and my son, we tend to go out separately. So it's not, but it could be that we're both in a car accident. Who's going to know that we've got dogs that need sorting out? So I'm thinking that now you should really be carrying something around with you. And if you're looking after an adult that maybe has got Alzheimer's or anything, maybe just needs care, you should make sure that that's known if anything should happen to you while you're out and about. Because by the time they get to your loved one, realize where you live and that there is someone there who needs help, they could be quite poorly by then. So it's something to think about. A lot of people wear like a pendant, don't they, or something. You could have a pendant on, or something that just, or carry a card that just said, because now think about with Betsy could have been out that day and died, and until anybody realized who she was, I mean, they probably would have found him quicker that way. But I think to most of us, we cannot believe that someone could be 7 days, bless him, waiting or not really realizing what's happened, probably wondering where Betsy was. maybe even trying to wake her up. As I know what happened with my mum and dad. You know, my dad, they were in separate rooms by then. My dad would always take my mum a cup of tea in the morning. And he didn't this particular morning because he had unfortunately passed away in his sleep. And my mum waited so long. This is what we can gather, because we can't get the full story out of my mum. We couldn't get the full story out of her because she was so sort of, advanced with her dementia. But in the end, she got up and she was shouting at him, apparently, telling him to get up. Why haven't you brought my cup of tea and that? And then when she couldn't raise him, it's so sad to think about, actually, isn't it? She went out and was wandering up and down the front of the road in her nightie. And luckily, they lived in a neighbourhood where it was still community and what have you. And one of the neighbours came out and said to her, what's the matter? And that's how it all came to light. But, I often think about that. I think, well, that was only maybe an hour that my mum was wondering what the hell was going on, looking for help. And then you think of this poor guy, just for a whole week, and then eventually just succumbing to his own problems, his own health problems. It's a horrible story, isn't it? It's very sad. So when it progresses rapidly, it requires hospital treatment and often mechanical ventilation to help with breathing. And what is the treatment? There is no specific cure, treatment, or vaccine for this virus, but patients have a better chance of survival when they are diagnosed early. Well, I think the moral of this story is, make sure there's no mice in your surrounding areas and stuff. And I read on another site, you should not vacuum these mice droppings, apparently, because that makes the dust fly up in the air and you might breathe it in. So you should not vacuum them. I don't know what you're supposed to do, brush them up, I suppose, or I don't know, what is the way? So if you live in one of those kind of areas, or if you have a mouse problem anywhere, because, it's not only that area, I know in the UK, again, if people live near rural places, they tend to have mice come into their shed or whatever. And, at the end of the day, the mice are entitled to their life as well. But maybe you should look into some preventative measures of how to keep mice out. They're difficult to keep out because they're so clever. But yeah, you don't want them near your home, and you don't want to run a chance of picking up any illnesses from them. But they have the right to their environment as well. So I don't, I just think if you lived in an area that you think you might be susceptible to them, it's a good idea to look at what you can do about it. Preventative measures, because you just don't want, you just don't want this happening, do you? So, hi, sheep farmer. Oh, you're in Victoria. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you about that, what this virus was, what I can gather what it is, and it's just a word of warning to anybody, isn't it? At least there's some awareness now about it. I bet nobody knew, I bet there's not many people knew about that virus before.